Excellent. Well, look, I'm gonna kick off. Bearing in mind we are now 1 minute past, and we've promised we won't keep Keri-anne from her family for any more than an hour, if that's okay. But first of all, I'd like to say first of all, thanks for joining us on this Outdoor Swimmer subscriber special. My name's Alistair Turner. I am a new member of the Outdoor Swimming family, new to the sport, new to the magazine as well. But a happy swimmer, I should say, a happy swimmer. And it's my job to facilitate this conversation, which is a real pleasure and a real honor. And my job is hopefully to probe deeply into Keri-anne's life and get her to tell us all lots of interesting and exciting things. But actually, probably more importantly, is to try and make sure you guys get as much say as possible into this conversation as possible, because the less I talk and the more you do, the better I feel it probably is for everyone. But before I do that, first of all, I just like to underline this is a subscriber special for Outdoor Swimmer magazine. We try and do whatever we can for our subscribers to enrich your lives as much as we humanly can, and to make it better and more interesting. So this is something we try and do for you guys as much as possible, and we thank you for your continued commitment to our magazine. It really means a lot to us, so thank you. Before I go any further, a bit of housekeeping. I hope it's all right with you all that this is recorded. I'll tell you why. It's because for a number of reasons. One, it's always good for those that can't attend to be able to catch up afterwards, to have a look afterwards, and that always is really enriching for them. And also, we do understand that because we had to shift the day, we might be crossing with something else, and a lot of the people that couldn't make it today really wanted us to as well. So I hope that's okay that we're recording this session. If you can, we do like to see your lovely faces, and so if you could put your cameras on. If it's going to kill your internet, ruin your experience, then clearly don't. We don't want you to have to do that. But if it's not a problem, it's always nice to see faces as well. So that'd be great. We also have a poll running as well. We're always interested to see what you think about this world that we're all living in. And we put a poll up there. So again, if you get a chance, maybe click on the link, which will be in the chat, and do a poll with us. It would be really great to hear what you're saying. Like I said, this is all about you guys asking questions. There's two ways to do that. First of all, you'll see the reactions note in the bottom of the screen. If you can put your hand up by clicking on that reactions button, I'll keep my eye out and come to you. All you need to do is simply unmute yourself, ask the question, don't forget to remute yourself afterwards, and we can do it that way. Or if you're feeling a little shy, again, by all means, use the chat function to ask any questions, and we'll get to you as soon as we can. So get going as soon as you can with that, because the quieter you guys are at the beginning, the more boisterous I'll be. And again, that's not why we're all here to do. Before we come to Keri though, it would be it's always good for us to bring in Simon Griffiths, our founder and our publisher of Outdoor Swim magazine, just to say a few words and to welcome us formally from the top, please, Simon.
Thank you very much, Ali. I don't think I can say anything that you haven't said already. It's just really nice to see so many of you here, and thank you all for your support and for reading Outdoor Swimmer. And we hope we can keep producing stuff that you like. And we're always open to your feedback and your suggestions, so feel free to send that to me directly or to Jonathan, our editor. So yeah, Alistair did make a slight error because the poll isn't in the chat. It's actually my job to set the poll running, so I'm going to do that first of all before we kick off. There's 4 questions in the poll. It will take a couple of minutes to fill them in. It's just really so we can understand a little bit more about you, and just to help us set the tone of the discussion. So I'm going to kick that off right now. The poll is anonymous, by the way, so we don't know. All we know is how many people answer each of the questions. We don't know who answers any of the questions. So there's nothing sensitive in here anyway. It's just a bit of fun really to get us started and to break the ice, and then we'll be straight over to Keri-anne in a minute. So I'm going to click that on. And I'll give you about a minute to fill this in.
Thanks, Simon. And while you do that, I will also underline that we are now coming in our 10th year of Outdoor Swimmer magazine. So 10 years since Simon's vision came through. So we're all very proud. It's a really nice year for us, and one that we're celebrating. If you could crack on that.
I hope you can actually, I haven't seen anyone answer yet, but it should be showing on your screens.
Good, thumbs up. Thank you for those thumbs up.
Oh, here we go. The answers are coming in now.
Thanks, guys. I'll give you guys a bit of a head start, and as you fill in, which I'm sure won't take a huge amount of time, can I drum roll Keri-anne Payne in, please? So look, we're really delighted that we've got a fantastic relation with Keri-anne, but also really proud of her as someone that's been a real icon of our sport for some time. Back in 2008, Keri-anne picked up a silver in the Beijing Olympics. She is the 2 times open water champion on the 10K distance, world champion. She's a specialist in that long distance swimming, open water swimming, and those longer distances as well. But more recently, she's a coach and is putting a lot back into the sport as well, which is wonderful. Equally as wonderful is the fact that she's also contributing to our magazine on a semi-regular basis, which we're really delighted for, and it means a lot for all those all that experience to be passed on to our readers. And when she's not doing all of those things, she's a mum as well, which is a role in its own right of a 2-year-old. Is that right, Keri-anne? A 2-year-old, which wow, lockdown with a 2-year-old. Wow. Okay, so a highly decorated person, someone with so much to share, and it's testament how many people are on this call that she's got so much to say. So Keri-anne, welcome. Hello.
Can I, before we bring in Keri-anne, sorry, Keri-anne, to interrupt you there. I'm going to end the polling in about 5 seconds. We've got most people have had a chance to vote. So if you don't mind, I'm going to share that very quickly because I think it might help what you're going to talk about. So I'm ending that, and I'm going to share the results. And hopefully, I don't see the same view as you, but can you see the results of the poll? So, Keri-anne, I think I'm going to hand over to you now because we've asked people about what sort of swimming do they do. So I think that's going to be useful for you when you're answering questions. Lots of people hoping to watch the marathon swimming in the Olympics, which is great. Few people thinking about becoming coaches as well, which is good. And it looks like we've got the timing about right for tonight because it seems to be the most popular time of day to run it. And I'm going to close that down now. Keri-anne, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks very much for having me this evening. I'm really excited to be here and looking forward to hearing your questions or your comments or whatever it is that you guys want to know. I'm here, you guys are here, so ask away, basically. I love these kinds of sessions to be as interactive as possible. So, you know, if you want to type in a question into the chat function, I've got the chat function open at the moment, so do that. Or as Alistair was saying, you know, just put up the little hand emoji, and you'll ask, or someone will ask you to unmute and fire away. But yeah, really interesting, the polls. It's you know, the main one being wild swimming, which is quite exciting. 91% of people saying that they're interested in wild swimming, which is amazing, because who doesn't want to go wild swimming apart from those 9% of people? And we'll find out who you are later. Then winter cold swimming as well, 82% of people. Swimming holidays, which is really exciting, that, you know, holidays, like, cool, we can do holidays soon, fingers crossed. Yeah, really interesting. 59% of people looking to take on long distance swimming challenges, some swim runs. So basically there's someone interested in everything, which, to be honest, I absolutely love about open water swimming, that you can have all of those things on there. There's ice swimming, there's you know, all sorts of stuff happening, which is really, really exciting. It's kind of taken me by surprise that the Olympics is coming soon, to be honest. When you're out of it for a little while, you completely forget that that's the kind of stuff that's happening. I don't have the pressure every week, every month, every day that the Olympics is just around the corner. And I do feel actually quite sorry for the guys that have are competing this year, having to wait a whole nother year. It's a a whole different mindset having to do that. Never mind postponing a race for a couple of weeks, but postponing something as big as the Olympic Games for another year, quite significant. So yeah, it's good to see that quite a lot of you guys are looking to watch the Olympic marathon swim. I'm hoping that the 5% that said no are not watching it because I'm not swimming in it. Maybe. Okay.
That's right. Look, so Keri-anne, can I kick in as well? I think it's great as well that we're seeing a poll that's shown so much with the wild, and I guess it's quite poignant that this week we've been celebrating World Ocean Day as well, and I guess someone who's got as unique a relationship with the water as anyone. I don't know. Give us your reflections on that. That would be really interesting.
Well, my reflections on that are a little bit cliche in that every day is World Ocean Day in my world. You know, the thing I love about taking people into the ocean, coaching people through that sort of process, or just getting people outside into the open water, getting people understanding it, experiencing, seeing what it's like. When you experience that sort of scenario in that setting, you start to see things like litter that are along the banks, that are in little puddles that kind of where the water gathers, or that's on the bottom of the ocean, or left on the beach from different things, discarded fishing gear, all that kind of stuff. So the more people that I feel we can get into open water swimming, the more see that, and the more people are doing their thing and their effort to pick it up when they see it. But also that, you know, the only way really we're going to start making massive changes and massive differences to that kind of stuff is to either lobby the governments, or to then, you know, put a lot more of an ownership on the fishing communities and the single-use plastic and all those kinds of companies. You know, we all say single-use plastic is really bad, and it is really bad, but actually something like 80% of the plastic that's in the ocean is actually from discarded fishing gear, which is terrifying to think that just by fishing that's having such a massive impact. So for me, every day is World Ocean Day, but it is nice that we do have, you know, a time that companies and organizations and people feel like they kind of, everything they do is on show for that kind of day, which does then put a little bit of ownership, and it does make people feel a little bit more kind of conscious about what they're doing. So I'm definitely not going to knock having a day specifically for the ocean, but I think it should be like World Ocean Month, maybe, just to kind of really get people backing into it. In case you can't tell, I'm quite passionate about making sure that our oceans stay and our lakes and our rivers stay nice and clean, because we really want to experience them how nature had intended, not how, you know, how unfortunately there are a few pockets of people that are making it.
That's great. Thanks so much, Keri-anne. Now I'm delighted that Kath Longhurst, thanks Kath, has kicked off with a question on this one. But and it's in the chat. But can you advise on effective leg kick for sea swimming? In terms of answering that question, if you could also, before you address that specific point, maybe you can just set us up in terms of your life as you now are a coach, and what that's looking like, how you're working with people, and maybe answer that question along the way. Is that right?
Yeah, so I actually haven't done a huge amount of coaching myself for the last year and a half. My role now is actually coaching coaches. So those that are interested in doing open water coaching qualifications, you know where to come to get your qualification. I am absolutely loving that. I really love coaching people. And when I retired from competitive swimming in 2017, that was what I set up, was, you know, an opportunity for me to pass my passion on and share my love of open water swimming to other people. But I didn't, and I wasn't expecting to, my tutoring, so coaching coaches, I wasn't expecting to love it as much as I do. I didn't think I could love anything more than coaching people, individual people, but coaching coaches I absolutely love, because my mission on this planet is to empower the world to swim outdoors. That is why I was born. That is what my mission is. I realize now, having had the career that I've had, that was my role and that was my aim. So, you know, having been so lucky to have the opportunities that I've had, and I worked really hard as well at the same time to do that, to represent my country over 3 Olympic Games. You know, it's really helped me kind of hone that message, which is for me, which is all about empowering the world to swim outdoors. So I really do love that. I've actually just come from day one of my first in-person coaching qualification since 2019. So I am beyond excited to be in a room with 5 other people for the next 3 days, which is really cool. But yeah, I really, really love that. So from Kath's question, to come back to that, so leg kick is interesting. It really kind of depends. So Kath, if you wouldn't mind elaborating just a little bit, it depends what your goal is. So I'll answer your specific question to you, but then I'll do a little bit of background around that. It really depends what your goal is. I would say that for most open water swims, which I would class as around about sort of 500 meters or more, maybe even 600, 800 meters or more, I would class them as distance events or endurance events, just because of the time that it takes to do that. When you get to that sort of distance, you're going to be swimming for, you know, maybe 10 minutes, maybe, well, longer, around about 10 minutes or longer. You can't really sprint for 10 minutes. You can't really use the really big muscles in our bodies really hard for 10 minutes. So I would be saying, you know, when it comes to kicking, the muscles in our legs are the biggest muscles in our body. And the more that we use them, two things are going to happen. We're going to need more oxygen to go to our legs. So we're going to have to take in more oxygen to go to our legs. The second thing is that because they're a big muscle and because we're taking oxygen to them, they're going to start creating lactic acid. And the more lactic acid that we have in our system, which is essentially a toxin, the more tired we're going to get. And at some point, the body's going to go, I'm done. I'm done. I'm not doing any more of this. So if you're sprinting, then having an effective leg kick will absolutely make a massive difference for you. So maybe you're sprinting for the last 50 meters of your triathlon, as an example, to get the blood flowing through your body, or you're maybe just doing like surf lifesaving as an example. I know loads of people that do surf lifesaving. It's about running in, it's about running out. The sprinting is a big part of that. But if you're going to be swimming for sort of longer than 10 minutes, I would say that leg kick, the most effective leg kick, is more just about balance. Because again, that we get our propulsion, the vast majority of our propulsion, from our arms. Swimming is an arm-dominated sport. So there was an Italian professor that did a study on elite male sprinters in Italy, and he found that these elite male sprinters who were kicking super efficiently and they were sprinting 50 meters, they were only generating 15% of their propulsion from their legs. 85% of their propulsion was coming from their arms. So I would say that around about, you know, most swimmers who are maybe not that efficient at kicking are probably only producing maximum 5% propulsion. For me, if I was your coach looking at you, I'd just make sure that your kicking isn't contributing to your drag and making you slower. But otherwise, I think actually an effective kick for sea swimming and open water swimming is just about balance and about making sure you're not using your legs too much until you need them. So hopefully that answers your question there.
That's a great answer. Thanks, Keri-anne. I really appreciate that. I hope that's okay for you as well, Kath. But by all means, Keri-anne, put more in the chat if you need to. There's another question in the chat there's kind of an extension on that one from John around his ankles in particular, kicking going backwards. Sorry, when I kick, I go backwards and suspect there's a lack of flexibility. Any words of advice for John on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So lots of people that come from a running background or a cycling background into swimming will find that, you know, because you spent most of your time with your leg in this position and your ankle sort of in this position, if you don't stretch it, the tendon at the front shortens, and over time, if it doesn't ever get stretched, it just kind of stays short and it doesn't really do anything different. So actually that flexibility can be quite tricky. Unfortunately, there's no quick fix, John. I can see the disappointment in your face. It's just going to be over time, and stretching will help that. So especially if you're going to do any kind of big cycles or big runs, making sure that you stretch before and you stretch afterwards as well. Now, a lot of people say, I just don't have the time. They do have the time, they just can't really be bothered. There's a difference between the two. We all have time, we do, whether we're making tea, standing at the coffee machine, or watching, I don't know, Coronation Street, or watching a Zoom session for the evening. You could be literally sitting on the floor stretching and doing that now. So even like 5 minutes of stretching a day would make a massive difference. Things that you can do, I would show you, but that would require me moving my laptop. But essentially it would be to try and sit on, you have to use your imagination here, but essentially if you can try and sit on your feet. So I've got my knees underneath me and I'm trying to just put my bum on my feet. A lot of people that don't have great flexibility won't be able to sit in this position. They might just be up on their knees. So I would say work on that if you can. That will make a massive difference. The other two things that you can do, it's not just about the stretching, but it's also about generating some fluid within the joint so we can get it woken, like we can wake it up. And the other thing is strengthening it. So one thing that you can do to start with is just like, you can do this now, John. I can almost imagine you doing this in front of you. So just move your ankles around like this. Everyone give us a go. I can't tell if you're doing it, but we'll give it a go anyway. Just moving your ankles around like that, just to generate a little bit of movement going round and round, just a little bit of movement in there. And then essentially you would sit on the back of you don't have to practice this now if you don't want to, but now I've said it's up to you. You can just then try and sit on your knees to try and stretch that bit. And then the thing to strengthen them afterwards is to do some heel raises, that's the word, either on a step. If you go on a step, you can go lower and then bring them higher up. So then it means that you're strengthening that muscle as well. So it's not just about stretching, but about getting some fluid in there, stretching, and then strengthening it.
Brilliant. Brilliant. That's great. I'm going to sort of start attacking these in order, actually, because we've got some really nice questions and they're following their own nice flow. So I don't feel the need to jump around too much, Keri-anne. So we should all have a massive sigh of jealousy towards Karen, who's stuck in California at the moment. Poor Karen. But a nice question from her in terms of the key qualities it takes to make a coach. And we saw from the poll earlier on that people are looking at it. On top of the science that you just bamboozled me with just then, any other top tips, Keri-anne?
Yeah, so what do you think are the key qualities to make a good open autism coach? Funny you say that. I was literally doing that today. That's the first thing that I do with any of my coaching courses. We talk about how you can be a great open water coach. Now, there's the obvious things out there that you could imagine. So having a good knowledge of all the open water skills, or even some of the open water skills, maybe a good knowledge of some technique work. So front crawl, breaststroke, and maybe some backstroke as well. There's 3 strokes that we will coach you on a coaching qualification on the open water one specifically. Sorry for all the butterfly swimmers, but it was vetoed. I'm going to blame Simon for that because he was on the working group as well. You can bring up your questions about butterfly to Simon. So there are quite a lot of things. If you sit there and think, what's the ideal qualities? And actually today there was a list of about 40 things, which can be overwhelming. And actually, that's not going to be very helpful for people to think about that. So how I help people to work with that is to break it up into 4 categories, because actually there are 4 categories that I think make up our personalities as who we are. And I think breaking them down into these 4 sections can make a massive difference. So one of the sections is knowledge, is part 1. So all the knowledge, what knowledge do you think you need? And then where are the gaps? And wherever there are gaps, that's what you do to help gain your confidence, which is a huge part of being a great open water coach, is having the confidence in the safety, confidence in your ability, confidence that you know what you're doing for your session, and confidence that you can help someone go through. And if I was to ask you now, Karen, right, I need you to go out and you need to go and coach someone right now, you might go, ooh, I really want to, but I don't know how. But that's okay, because you might not have the knowledge just yet, but that's what doing a qualification will do. It will gain the knowledge and you'll feel way more confident about that. The other boxes are things like skills. So what are all the skills that you need? So things like, being on time, making sure you email people and say, I can't quite make the session, I'm really sorry, and not doing it about an hour before the session's supposed to start. Sorry, guys. And being professional, making sure you have all the right kit with you, being honest. We talked about this quite a lot today, actually. As a coach, I hate conflict. I hate, the idea of saying something to someone that they might not like. But actually, to be a great open water coach, you need to be honest. You need to say, look, I'm really sorry, but I'm not sure today's the right day for you to come for a swim for whatever reason, conditions, the way they're feeling, they haven't got the right kit, that kind of stuff. And then honest about technique as well. So everyone likes to think they're doing a really good job of technique, but if they're not, they need to know. If it doesn't seem right, or they're not actually taking on the information, they need to know that kind of stuff. So all of those things, communication skills, all that, understanding your swimmer as well, that's a really important one. Then we move across to our behaviors, and that's a really big one. And kind of, for me, the biggest thing here within behaviors is active listening. So listening is definitely a communication skill, but active listening is something that is absolutely a behavior, which is what people see. And active listening is properly listening to what someone's saying, not just assuming that they say. And for me, one of the big areas around this is when a swimmer comes to me and they say, or they've done a session and I've asked them to work on a particular skill, swim to the buoy and back. When they get back and they say, and I say things like, how does that feel? And they go, well, yeah, it was fine. Yeah, no, it felt okay. Like some people would just move on from that. For me, it's kind of a red flag. You took far too long to answer that question. Talk to me more about that, and what does okay mean? What does okay feel like? What would good feel like? What do you think you could try differently? So actively listening to what someone's saying and not just assuming that you know what they're talking about, or that I have a session plan, here's my session plan, I'm going to follow it. We have to be really adaptable. If anyone's done any swimming in any pocket of open water before, you'll know that we have to adapt to the conditions constantly. So that's another skill, being adaptable. And then finally, our attitudes, that's the other one. And the big things that fit into here are things like empathy, especially for those new nervous swimmers. We won't need empathy for every swimmer that we have, but certainly for the ones that really want to try open water swimming for the first time, or are a bit scared, a bit nervous. Maybe they've had like a traumatic experience as a kid, and we'll need to have empathy. Now, I will give you one more thing on this bit, well, two more things really, but part one is knowing the difference between sympathy and empathy, I think, is one of the key things that make a great coach. And there's a lady called Brené Brown. I'll type this in, her name, into the chat. Brené Brown. I think she still has, oh no, sorry, I sent that straight to Kath. I will send this to everyone. Where's everyone? There they are. Brené Brown. So I think there's still a documentary of hers on Netflix at the moment that she's doing, which is the difference between sympathy and empathy. And again, from a coaching perspective, knowing the difference between the two is going to be really helpful for you. And then the final thing for me is about swimmer focused. So not forcing someone into a box. I absolutely get angry, believe it or not, I do get angry, but I get angry when I see coaches trying to fit people in specific boxes. We're all different. Everyone is different. Everyone's different heights, different sizes, different abilities, different densities, different fat, different all sorts of things. Someone's wearing skin, someone's wearing wetsuits, someone slept well, someone hasn't slept well, someone's got injuries. We're all different. So for me, a really good coach is someone that looks at the person they have in front of them to make them the best version of themselves, not trying to fit them into a little box that they think is the right box to fit in. And that's the end of my rant from what coaching. I wasn't sure you were ready for that one.
Keri, thank you. That's brilliant. And on that last point, actually, there's two points I was going to make. Someone's asked the question, does it matter if you only breathe to one side? But I think that last point is something we've seen in a lot of sports, with this idea of over coaching and over manipulating. Is that a thing in open water coaching?
Yeah, I think I absolutely love YouTube for like how to fix the dishwasher. It's brilliant. How to do dishwashing things, how to fix the boiler. Great, sometimes how to fix it. Obviously, that's not, don't go using YouTube. Definitely experts are best. But I hate YouTube for swimming technique. Just because there's so much out there, so many people out there who, I'm going to call them cowboys, basically. They're like cowboys. They don't really know what they're doing, but just because someone's really good at editing a video and they've got 1,000 million subscribers does not mean that they're an expert in helping someone. I think for me, YouTube is a place that is based around fact and opinion. And sometimes opinion can come across as fact because someone's done a really good job of editing a video and the way they've said it. And those are the scariest videos to me, the ones that are forcing people to breathe both ways, saying you have to be able to breathe both ways, which is just not true. If you watch some of the best swimmers across the world at the Olympic Games, watch them, watch the freestyle swimmers, and you'll notice that the vast majority of them will be breathing only to one side. Now, they're breathing to one side because of comfort, because it feels good for them. But actually, one of the reasons they're breathing just to one side is because that's much more like what they do on land. Now, this is the thing that I really hate about YouTube. There's this assumption that you have to be able to breathe that way, and you have to do 3 strokes, and you have to breathe that way. But actually, swimming breathing should be just like your land breathing. So I'm going to come back to John, because I've totally assumed, John, that you're a runner. Totally assumed that that's what you do because of your ankle flexibility question. So I would be saying things like, if you're going to go for a half marathon paced jog, and that's maybe like a 3 or 4 out of 10 instead of pace, how would you be breathing when you do a jog like that? And then when we do a 3 or 4 gentle paced swim in the pool, your breathing should mimic that. And for some people, it's what would look like breathing and then doing 2 strokes and then breathing again. For some, that will be breathing every 3, and for some, it will be breathing every 4. So for me, breathing's about making it as close to what we do on land in the water. I think somewhere along the lines, there's been this like weird thing that people assume because we're in water, like biomechanics and physiology and gravity, fair enough, gravity, I'll give you that one, but physics, it's all still the same. We still are bound by the laws of physics, even though we're in the water. It's just that it's just a bit different. So yeah, so you don't have to, absolutely nothing wrong with breathing to one side. What I would say though is in open water, it's a really good skill to be able to breathe both ways. Normally I'd ask you guys the question, why do you think it's a good skill? But I'll tell you, because you're all on mute. Really, it's about kind of having a bit of respite. So if waves are coming at you one side and that's the side you breathe, it's good to be able to breathe the other side. The other thing that breathing both ways can help with is having your stroke a little bit more balanced. But there's no reason why you still can't balance your stroke out, breathing every two, but having a coach look at your stroke to help you figure out how you can balance your stroke out if you feel more comfortable breathing every two will be really helpful.
That's great. Thanks, Keri-anne. I'm gonna go back to the to my order at a moment. I need to play a bit of catch up, so sorry about this, guys. So open water swimming and breaststroke, head under the water. Thoughts, says MRA.
Really interesting. I think I was certainly doing head up breaststroke with my woolly hat on through the whole of winter. So winter swimming, definitely head up breaststroke for me. Just because I was there because I wanted to enjoy it. I wasn't there to do swimming. So for me, I think I class winter swimming as for me, it's me time. It's not, now don't take this the wrong way, but it's not exercise in a way, because I'm only doing it for 2 minutes, literally 2 minutes. So that's not really class. It's kind of harder getting dressed at the end, to be honest. It takes longer certainly to get dressed than it does for me to do my actual swim. So in the winter I tend to do head up breaststroke, but what I do find, as it gets warmer and I start swimming a bit longer, I start to get quite a sore lower back, and that's because my head is out of the water and my body position is quite adjusted to having my head out. My legs are quite low in the water with the head at breaststroke. So I do find that if I'm swimming for longer, I find it a bit better if I'm not getting the ice cream headache to put my head in the water and do breaststroke. But the beauty of open water swimming is that you can do what you want. Don't let anyone force you into doing something that you don't want to do. If you want to do head at breaststroke, you do head at breaststroke. But if you're getting a sore lower back, you might want to work on doing a little bit of front crawl or maybe a bit of head in breaststroke to counterbalance that.
I was actually saying head under. I actually always have my head under, in fact, is what I was saying. Yeah, so I'm always the head under, but I'm always really flat and I love it. But, and I can do big distances, but I just question, is it a good thing to do over big distance? I quite like it, but is there a kind of reason why I shouldn't? Should I convert to crawl,
No, definitely not. I mean, if you want to learn how to do front crawl, then absolutely go for it. There are some amazing coaches out there that can help you to learn how to do that. But again, if you feel really comfortable doing what you're doing and you don't feel there's a need to take anything further, if you're comfortable and it feels good and you love it, I don't see why there's any need to change it. Definitely not.
Thanks, Keri-anne. There's a couple of questions in here about more endurance, longer distance swimming, and also nutrition. Albert, thank you so much for your question, which is, have you ever done a multi-day endurance swim, around 250 kilometer swim over 8 to 10 days? If so, what was your rest and feeding strategy? If not, how would you advise approaching it? And we've got another question as well, which kind of follows that. Any suggestion for nutrition for a marathon swim before, during, and after, please? Wow,
Albert, wow. You're actually going to do, so when you say example 250k, it sounds like that's actually what you're going to be doing, 250k over 8 to 10 days.
Eventually. Yeah, eventually.
Eventually, amazing.
The length of the River Shannon here in Ireland.
Wow, amazing. So I know is the answer, the easy answer to your question. No, I've never done that knowingly. What I have done though is whilst I was training, so I used to swim around about 70,000 meters every single week. On a big week, what we used to call Hell Week, which was literally that, we would go up to around about 100k. So I probably wouldn't do too many of those in one go, because I used to get injured if I swam too much. So part one for that is just making sure that your body is ready to take that distance on. So from an injury perspective, make sure that your technique is flawless, because if you're going to get an injury, that's where it's going to make it its absolute worst for you. And then on top of that, the psychological effects of having an injury, knowing you've got an event to take on. So definitely, make sure if you do have an injury now, get it sorted with the physio first of all, And then I'd say definitely get someone to check over your technique to make sure that you're not causing yourself injury over the long run. What we've seen quite a lot of is unfortunately the way that a lot of people were taught how to swim. So I can't see everyone, but maybe just a show of hands, use the reaction emoji. Who here was taught how to swim doing the S-pull or the keyhole or the anything along those lines? Yeah, quite a few people putting their hands up. What we know now about that version of front crawl is that what was encouraged was a thumb first entry into the water. Now, I'll get you all to do this actually, as long as you don't have an injury in your shoulder. But if you put your arm out in front of you and put your hand on your shoulder and just rotate as if you were going to put your thumb into the water first and then back, and you can feel that your shoulder is internally rotating on the inside when you do that. Now imagine adding the pressure of the water onto that. So the water's around about 800 to 900 times more dense than air. So it doesn't feel difficult doing this here and moving, but then add that extra 800 times more pressure onto that shoulder. What we're seeing is a lot of people that have had shoulder impingements or shoulder injuries, it's because of thumb first entry into the water. So, you know, just making sure that there's someone that can check over those things to make sure that you're not doing any little things that are going to niggle injuries, especially such a big distance over such a short period of time. Rest as much as you can whenever you can. That's going to be super important. So again, now be working on things that, finding out what things help you recover. Is that, you know, watching TV? Is it playing games? Is it actually sleep? What are the things that are going to help you recover? One really interesting point that I'll make, I'll be slight digress, but it will make sense come back, is building up your resilience will definitely be a big key to this, and making decisions. So every decision we make throughout the day has a big impact on our brain, essentially. So if you imagine our choice decision-making resilience, it's like a battery. You can imagine a battery. Every decision we make takes a bit of that battery away from, am I going to get out of bed? Am I going to snooze? I'm going to snooze. I'm going to snooze again. I'm going to get out of bed. I really need to get out of bed. That's the first feet, taking a few runs off. Am I going to brush my teeth today or not? Nah, not. Am I going to wash my hair today or not? Maybe not. Which t-shirt am I going to wear? That t-shirt or that t-shirt? Which swimming costume? What am I going to have for breakfast? This and that. Before you've left the house, you've made all these decisions and you've already lowered that battery. And then you go to work. Am I going to get the tube? I've missed the tube. Am I going to sit down? Am I not going to sit down? Does that person need the tube? I don't know what I'm going to do. All these little decisions that we make that seem like second nature to us, they take the part of that battery away. And usually when we get to the end of the day is when we have no battery left, no willpower left, and no resilience left. So we go for, like I had tonight, a pizza for dinner because I've made too many choices today and it was just easier than cooking. So I had a pizza. Bad decision, but it's fine. I'll get over it. What I would suggest is the way that we can help to build that up is actually by watching or doing something that you know really well. So by watching a movie or a TV show or a series that you know exactly what's going to happen, you don't need to like make a decision and be like, oh, there's something new going to happen or something suspense. So for me, this will be an insight into my world. And it's not just because my 2-year-old, which I probably could have got away with, but I'm a Disney girl through and through. So whenever I used to go up to my major competitions, I used to literally watch my favorite Disney movies. I must have seen Moana about 100 million times. Yes, I'm 33 years old, but I don't care. I definitely love that movie. But what that does by watching something back, whether it's Friends, whether it's playing a game or it's something else, as long as there's no suspense to it, that helps to build up that resilience, that willpower, which helps you recover because you don't have to make those decisions again. Again, the next thing is about making all the decisions you can when you have the ability to. So make decisions, as many as you can in terms of your rest and your recovery, well in advance to that. Those things. So I'm going to have day 1, I'm going to have this and this for breakfast. Day 2, I'm going to have that and that for breakfast. Make the decisions that you can make well in advance, so you don't have to use up any of that brain space. Basically, having that big plan would be really good. Feeding. That's where that's going to have to happen in your practice in the lead up to that. So practice feeding on a whole bunch of different things. Don't just assume that gels are going to get you through, because they're not. One gel is going to help you once. 6 gels in 6 hours, not going to help you. Just ask Ross Edgley when he had, I think, something like 18 gels in about 6 hours once, and his stomach was absolutely killing him. Not helpful in that scenario, but practice it. Practice all the things that you're going to do. Practice having jelly babies, practice having bananas, practice having pancakes, practice having gels, water, all that kind of stuff, so that you know what works well for you and what doesn't, what you feel good. So making a note beforehand, I feel out of 1 to 10 in terms of energy levels of 5 today. At the end of the session, this, I had this, I feel this. And that will help you piece together what your strategy should look like, hopefully. Again, sorry for the really long answer to
No, that was
great. Thank you.
That was amazing. Just yeah, no, thanks, Albert. Yeah, that was amazing just to hear that. That was great. Thank you so much. God, and I feel really bit guilty now because we've got Karen's question, who's on the exact opposite end of the scale. Poor, I'm really sorry. Karen has just undergone shoulder surgery, and she's out of action for a little while. And advice on staying positive. I've heard you talk about this before, Keri-anne, haven't I? In terms of positive mindsets and things like that. If you could help out on that one, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, so actually, whenever we had injuries as athletes, we saw them as an opportunity to work on the things that we never had time or could be bothered to do, like stretching those ankles, John. Little things like that, you know, doing kick as an example. I was dreadful at kick, but I know that I needed it at certain parts of my race and certain parts of my swim. So I did break my arm once, hairline fracture, falling off a bike. And I had to just do kick for a couple of months. And what it did do was it helped me with that. We've all been in lockdown. We've probably all had maybe too many pizzas at night because we couldn't be bothered, or drank maybe a little bit too much during lockdown. Weekday drinking, who knew that wasn't a thing until now? Apparently that's not what happens anymore. But you know, we've probably all neglected the gym a little bit. If you can and you feel like you're able to do that, one of the best things that you can do right now, Karen, is to work on your core. So if you've got a really strong core, that will really help you when you get back into the water. And then, you know, trying to work on any other kind of light cardiovascular fitness. I'm not saying do a HIIT class, but I'm saying, you know, what things can you do that are going to help get you fit that you can do? Is that sitting on a bike? Is it on a cross trainer? Is it running? Those kinds of things, even if it's walking, speed walking, that kind of stuff. As long as it, I'm sure, doesn't hurt your shoulder, what can you do to get your fitness back up? Because actually exercise, and again, it's really boring to hear this, I'm sure, but exercise does help us feel a little bit more relaxed and open and able to kind of take things on and be a bit more resilient. So any kind of form of exercise that you can do will be really helpful for you to do that. But again, work on the things that you maybe didn't have the chance to work on quite so much when it comes to swimming. So things like, if you can get in the water, can you work on your legs as an example? Is that possible for you to do? Or can you work on the core, or can you get fitter so that when you get back into the water, you don't feel quite so bad about the fitness level side of things? It's going to take time to work on your technique again, but that's a good starting point.
Brilliant. Thank you, Keri-anne. I think this is my favorite question from the young, sprightly Ming Pathé, who is a beginner to outdoor swimmer at the age of 66 and would like to be able to swim in 10-degree water without a wetsuit for about 30 minutes to start. She lives by a lake. How can she achieve that goal to feel comfortable and enjoyable? Any advice in terms of warning the dangers of swimming in 10 degrees water, please?
Wow. So I'll just throw that out there. I absolutely would not be able to swim in 10 degrees for 30 minutes. I'm just throwing it out there. I'll put my hands up. That's definitely not going to happen. What I would say is that having goals like that, which you can't guarantee, and you can't guarantee any goal, so having a goal and something like that would be really handy. But when it comes to cold water swimming, there's so much more that can go wrong potentially in terms of hypothermia and all that kind of stuff. So part one, don't do that straight off the bat. Definitely not. If that's a goal, make sure that is a goal and you're going to work your way up to that. So if you haven't done any open water swimming, right now in the heat wave that we're having is a really good time to learn how to get into the water. So I have this every time I do an open water course. It's mandatory, you have to wear a wetsuit, and people hate it because, especially if they've been swimming. I've been swimming through the winter with no wetsuit, in skins all winter long. Do I need my wetsuit? Yes, you do need your wetsuit because the water will still feel cold, especially today, 25 degrees. The water was 22 degrees and every single one of them acted like a little kid when they got in because it was cold, it felt cold. So now is a really good time to start acclimatizing your body without a wetsuit on, if that's your ultimate goal, is to swim without a wetsuit. A lot of people think that I want to be a winter swimmer, I'm going to start in the winter. And actually that's not necessarily going to help set you up for success, because I'm not going to lie, it's not not actually that fun the first time that you do it. There's this like assumption that you'll feel amazing when you get out of the cold water. It's this incredible thing. You know, Simon is going to be the first to admit that this is his first year of swimming without wetsuits, and he has been the publisher and the editor of Outdoor Swim magazine for a very long time. So, you know, it does take a bit of guts. It does take a bit of that kind of stuff. But one of the best ways to set yourself up for a successful winter, that's not to say that if you have started swimming in the winter, you haven't had success, is to start in the summer and then work your way through. So you start in this period, and then you kind of get used to the temperature as you go along. Cold water showers are another really good way of helping your body prepare for that kind of stuff. What I would say is, you know, don't force yourself when it comes to cold water. Don't force yourself. Don't, you know, I've had the absolute joy of speaking to a couple of three amazing people in the world of ice swimming. One being a guy called Lewis Pugh, one being Kath Pendleton, who is known as the Mirth the Mermaid, and then one being a lady called Jamie Monaghan, who is literally the queen of ice. And she has swum an ice mile in the coldest, literally the coldest ever ice mile on record. She's swum that. And when I talk to those guys about how they do it, the first thing every single one of them say is you have to leave your ego at the lake, at the side of the lake. You cannot take your ego in with you. They all say many times in their training, in their preparation for their ice mile that they did, on many occasions they got in and got straight back out because they're like, I'm just not feeling it today. Don't soldier on, especially if you've booked something and you're wasting money, or you know, you might feel like you're wasting money on it. When your safety is involved in something like cold water swimming, you have to leave your ego at the door. Make sure that there's someone else there as well that can kind of keep you true to your word, and can keep an eye on you as well. So just leave your ego. If you want to succeed in this, you have to leave your ego behind, because it's not going to help you. It's about kind of going in, seeing how you feel, and then, you know, maybe working your way up in that sort of scenario. I'm really not trying to scare you off, Ming, because it is amazing, and I wish you all the best for your challenge within that. But on a positive note, now is the time to start. Definitely, there are some amazing people out there that are doing some really good cold water swimming events, like Fenwick Ridley up in Doncaster Way. He's going to be doing this winter. So he's the guy that basically cuts out holes, or actually he made a channel, like ice channel this year, where he cut out ice, literally ice in a channel across this lake. So if anyone can help you with figuring out how you can do that, he's the guy that can help you. So his name's Fenwick Ridley, Fenwick, spelled Fenwick Ridley. So have a look at him on Instagram, or I think his company's called H2O.
Found in the pages of Outdoor Swimmer magazine, I believe, as well.
I'm sure he is in there as well. Yeah, so again, he's going to be someone really helpful. I can't give you any more than that, unfortunately, Ming, because I'm not an expert in cold water swimming. But yeah, hopefully I haven't scared you off. I didn't mean to. That's not my plan. Safety first.
Yeah, no, great answer. So there's a follow-up question as well, also about cold water swimming. About it's from Paula, just asking about the difference between the difference between swimming in fresh versus saltwater conditions. Is there anything that you want to add to that answer?
Yeah, we actually did a blog on this on our Straight Line Swimming website. I'll try and dig it out at some point and send it onto you guys. But yeah, the difference between fresh and salt. So the first thing with salty water is you're more buoyant in the salt. So the salt will make you sit higher. So if you're used to training in the salt and then you swim in fresh water, you might find that you feel a bit lower in the water. And that's because of the buoyancy levels, because of the salt levels in the water. So I think it's the Dead Sea in Israel somewhere. I swam in there. I think that's what it's called. The salt content is so high in the water that you cannot go under the water. It is physically impossible for you to sink. We tried. We're a bunch of athletes. Someone told us we couldn't do something. We all tried really hard to do it, and it's physically impossible. So I definitely wouldn't do a 10K there, because you wouldn't be able to put your face in and swim, or any kind of distance for that matter. It's very much a head up breaststroke kind of place. But yes, the buoyancy of the salt or the density of the salt will sit you higher in the water. So you'll probably feel way lighter in salt water than you would in fresh water. And again, salt. So actually what a lot of people find, that sounds so obvious, but what a lot of people find when they go from fresh water to the sea, is that it's salty and it tastes different, and it will taste different. That's a big difference. And if you're swimming for a long distance in salty water, what tends to happen is when you've been in the water for a long time, you get really wrinkly hands. The same thing happens to your tongue. Weird, totally totally weird, but you get like salt tongue, I guess, is maybe the only way to really describe it, where it feels like basically you've got like a wrinkly tongue, which doesn't particularly last. It doesn't feel that nice, but then it'll last a couple of hours, and then you should be back to good after that. That's pretty much it, really. Just the higher you sit or the lower you sit in the water. It's a bit like wearing a wetsuit, not wearing a wetsuit. Salt water has similar sort of effect. So with a wetsuit, you sit higher in the water because it's more buoyant. Similar sort of process in fresh water. But that's it, really. There's not much different. I mean, sharks, no sharks. Maybe that's the only other difference.
Right, thanks, Keri-anne. I'm conscious we've got limited time left, so I'm going to try and sort of run through these last questions.
I'll try and answer them quickly. Sorry, guys.
Christina, thanks so much for your question, which is recommendations on sighting, head up versus on the stroke, or should it be vice versa? Any thoughts on that?
Yes, there's a couple of different ways of doing sighting, and again, sighting really very much depends on your goal. So for me, my goal was to win races. That's what my absolute aim was to do. So for me, I had to make sure that I was sighting regularly, because I only wanted to swim 10K. I did not want to swim any more than that. I wanted to make sure I was on the racing line, and I needed to make sure I could see where everyone was. So when I was racing, I was breathing both ways because I needed to keep my eye on where everyone was. And I would sight quite a lot. So sighting a lot over 10K would have quite an impact on my position, because this is the position I'd like to be in. But with sighting, my body is moving and changing. So I know that that's going to make me slightly slower, but it was a necessity. So I had to figure out how to do that really efficiently. So the way that I figured out how to do that was to try and incorporate sighting into my breathing. So I would look up just before I was going to turn to take my breath. So I'd only lift my head up so my eyes could see. Again, we use the term crocodile eyes, if anyone's heard crocodile eyes. Again, I think it's a really inappropriate word to be using when we're in the open water, but hey, I didn't come up with the word, someone else did. So I'd just lift my eyes out of the water, and then I would turn to take my breath. So I wouldn't lift my head out. So I was minimizing the impact that it had on my body. So it'd be a look up, and then I would turn to take my breath. Quite a lot of people do it the opposite way around. So they take their breath and then they look forward. What I find difficult with that one is that when you've taken your breath and you look forward, we have less control over how high our head comes up. Now, this isn't for everyone, but the vast majority of people who I've coached that do that tend to lift their head up a little higher. So again, just adjusting their body position just a little bit lower, so having a slightly bigger impact on someone. The other thing that's really crucial to mention is why you're doing open water swimming. So a lot of people are swimming because they're swimming with their friends, they're swimming in the sea, they're swimming in lakes. But if you've ever swum in the sea and you've had a near, not necessarily death experience, but a close encounter with a jet ski, that has an impact on you, and you then need sighting for safety. So safety sighting is very different to efficient racing sighting. In a race, I know that there's kayakers and boats that are going to make sure no jet skis come anywhere near me. But when I'm going for a leisure swim in the open water in the sea, as an example, jet skis, you know, a bit like, sorry if anyone's got a jet ski here, but a bit like Lego men. It's like brains are taken off and left on the side, and then they're in on jet skis, and then they put the brain back on when they come back in. If anyone's ever had that experience, you'll know what I'm talking about. So that's different. So safety sighting is much higher. Safety sighting is about making sure you're seeing where you are. So you would lift your head up, maybe do a little bit of water polo stroke for a little while in order to do that. So depending on what your goal is, that really kind of will depend a little bit on what you might use your sighting for.
That's a great answer. Thanks very much. That's brilliant. There's a couple more questions. First of all, from Malcolm, who's asking about training for a 10K, and sort of asking whether that's the same as perhaps a marathon training. What sort of distance does one need to be swimming in advance of that, and how many times? It's an interesting question. Thank you, Malcolm.
Yeah. So Malcolm, I'm going to ask you to unmute if that's all right for a second, if you're comfortable with that. There you go. My question to you, Malcolm, is I want you to imagine you're just about to take on your 10K event. What would you feel really confident with having done distance-wise the week before? What would make you feel confident that you could take on that 10K?
Well, I'd imagine that you would be tapering down the week before, but I'm guessing, but and maybe about, I don't know, 8 or 9K, even 7K, I don't know.
Yeah, so
Not
then
sure.
2 weeks before that, then before you start your taper, what would make you feel confident you could do that 10K?
Well, with running, I think I did a 20 mile run once for the marathon. So if you doing the same principle, I would say about, I don't know, 7K, maybe 6K, 7K.
Yeah. So, you know, really, again, that's the question I would get you all to ask yourself if you were taking on an event like that 2 weeks before, 3 weeks before, a month before. What would make you feel confident a month before that you could take on that challenge, that swim? And, you know, for me, whilst I was in the early part of my 10K career, personally for me, I knew that if I could swim over the 10K mark, I would feel really confident that I could do the 10K. 10K then became not the issue for me. So I would do sessions of 11K, one or two sessions. Again, I was swimming 10 sessions a week, 70,000 meters a week. So that was literally my job. So if you think that you need to do that distance to help you feel confident on the day, because that's when the mind games come into play, that would be something that'd be really helpful. If you feel doing a 7K a couple of weeks before and you still got lots in the tank, you'll know then that you've got the extra 3K to give on the day with the adrenaline pumping and all that kind of stuff on the day.
Yeah, I didn't want to over the brain sort of thing, and
and that's
on that.
Exactly. And that's why I asked you the question, because everyone will have different things. So I could tell you what worked for me, which might not work for you. And I don't want you to do something that I've done just because I told you it was the right thing to do, because that's not going to be helpful. You've got to feel really confident that you can do that. So I think that sounds like a great starting point to be in. If you can work your way up to 7K 2-3 weeks before that 10K swim and know, you know what, actually I feel pretty good here, then I'd say that would be really helpful for you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Keri. And I had one last question. We've only got a few minutes left, and like I said, we wanted to keep the session to an hour, but we were just talking ahead about some of the stuff that you're working on as well, Keri-anne, in terms of your coaching. And I understand you're branching out to more adventure style stuff. We would be really interested in what that's looking like.
Yeah, so I kind of I run two businesses. One is called Tri-Skate, which is an open water coaching business. So where I put on, or I run swimming retreats in different parts of the world. So the Caribbean being one. I had to pick somewhere. We went with the Caribbean. I'm also running a retreat this year in Tresco, which will be my first UK-based retreat and my first cold water retreat. So in October, I'll be doing 10 days in Tresco, so 5 days running 2 retreats. I'll have 5 days at home and then I go straight to St. Lucia. So that's going to be a real shock to the system for me, doing the 2 separate swims. The beaches look the same though, apparently, I'm told. White, sandy, amazing beaches. But we've literally just last night launched our brand new live website, which is so it's triscape.me. So I can't unfortunately do as many retreats and adventures as I would love to, but over the last 3 years with my other with my straight line swimming business, which is my tutoring business where I qualify coaches, I've qualified some amazing coaches that have just such wonderful places on their doorstep. They're locals, they know exactly where the best swim spots are, the best walking spots are, the best pools are, mermaid pools, all the amazing things, the best fish and chips, all that kind of stuff. So we've partnered with 4 at the moment, starting off with 4 local expert coaches, all level 2 qualified open water coaches, to put on weekend swimming adventures. So we've got one happening in Cornwall, one happening in the Lake District, one in Jersey, and one in Devon down the Jurassic Coast around Burr Island. And it sounds amazing. I can't wait to do one of these myself. So we partnered with these coaches to put on open water adventure weekends, essentially, which I'm really, really excited about. But like I said, we only launched the website yesterday. So if there's any spelling mistakes, a nice little email to say this isn't working would be very helpful for that. But if you are interested in any of open water holidays, you know, we're aware that people are maybe not not too excited about going abroad potentially because of quarantining and all that kind of stuff. But I think we're all quite excited to explore our own coast and our own areas of natural beauty like the Lake District or Jersey, because there are some amazing places out there. So yeah, Von's just put out the website, which is tryscape.me. And then my current day job, which is why I don't get to coach that much, is that I qualify people to become level 2 open water coaches. And I run the STA's open water coaching qualification through my business Straight Line Swimming. And I absolutely love it. So at the end of this season, which will be 2018 was when we launched the qualification. And at the end of the season, I will have qualified around about 320 coaches, which is amazing. And I'm loving every single part of that journey. And I just really love doing this. I love passing on that and just helping people to feel really confident to go out and coach people and pass on their passion for open water swimming and love, and every reason possible you can imagine why people are doing it, from the swimming friends that, you know, everyone's come to and they kind of want to know that they're saying the right things and doing it safely. Swimming teachers who absolutely lost all of their work through lockdown and just want to be able to add something new to their bow, because the open water wasn't shut unless you were in lakes and things like that, manned lakes, but, you know, rivers and seas, it wasn't, you know, we could still go if you were lucky enough to be local. And then triathlon clubs as well. So loads of triathlon clubs don't have open water coaches, so they were outsourcing that. So they want to be able to do that in-house. And then people just wanting to know more about it themselves, or people who are having complete career changes as well. We've had amazing people joining us over the years and setting up successful open water coaching business. And I can see at least one person. So hi, John. See you sitting over there joining us this evening to do that. So yeah, I just absolutely love both of them.
That's amazing. Look, we've hit past 9 o'clock, so we'll draw things to a close. Keri-anne, thank you so much. Honestly, that was
my
just really,
absolute
really
pleasure. Sorry if I didn't get any of your questions. If you want to send them over to Simon, I'll do my best to answer them.
That's great, and yes, join us with our emoji applause for Keri-anne. That's great. And look, thanks everyone else for being on the call as well. Like I say, we really appreciate you guys, your commitment to our magazine, and we'll keep on doing what we can to keep this lovely sport going as well. There's the link to Keri-anne's website on the chat as discussed, and we look forward to doing more of these things in the future. But thanks for now, and we wish you all a lovely evening. Thank you guys.
Thanks, you guys too. Bye.